Welcome to my first ever Eating for Health podcast. I'm really delighted to launch this, and I have some fantastic guests lined up to come and chat with me about lots of important topics. I hope that you'll enjoy listening and find it really informative as well. If you haven't heard of me before, I'm Dr. Harriet Home, a registered nutritionist with the Association for Nutrition and a doctor. After studying medicine at Cambridge University, I worked in the NHS for over a decade, ultimately specialising in paediatric oncology. I have a PhD in genetics, I lecture on nutrition, and I was commissioned to write a novel degree combining culinary skills, nutrition, and health. I'm the author of 2 books written for mums and mums-to-be, available on my website. My focus is science-backed nutrition, and I'm passionate about sharing credible information to empower people like you to eat for health. I'm so pleased to welcome Dr. Preeya Alexander, and she's someone I love to chat with because she seems like a fantastically caring GP just wanting to nurture and help her patients thrive. Preeya is a GP in Melbourne and a medical educator with Eastern Victoria GP training, supporting and training other GPs. You might know her as the Wholesome Doctor on Instagram. And in 2016, she started the Wholesome Doctor to try and combat health misinformation and engage people in discussions around health in a more engaging manner. She's a mum of 2, loves reading fantasy novels, pottering in the veggie patch with her kids, and cooking with rainbows. And that brings me on to the topic of her amazing book, with stunning illustrations, called Rainbow Plate, designed to teach children and parents about the importance of eating fruit and vegetables. So hi Preeya, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to have you on here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about your book.
Thanks for having me on, Harriet.
So it's called Rainbow Plate, is that right? And can you tell me a little bit about it?
So it's, I don't want to pretend that it's like The Hobbit. It's not some kind of great masterpiece of a book. It is a kid's book. It's about a duck and a little girl called Stevie. They're best friends, and basically it's about their adventures eating rainbows. So they eat lots of fruit and veggies, and it's just a book that's designed to make, fruit, veggies, eating the rainbow fun for kids. It's actually a very simple concept, so it's not The Hobbit, but it works. It's worked with my kids, with my patients, and yeah, it's just a fun, engaging book for kids.
I loved it. I thought it was really beautiful. I love the idea, and I really love the illustrations. So can you tell me where you got the idea, who illustrated it? Did you have any role in that?
So I got the idea because my mum has always talked about eating rainbows. So I must give some credit to my poor mother, my long-suffering mother. So she's always talked about eating rainbows, and I realised that, I started delving into this concept of eating rainbows, and there wasn't quite a book like the one I've written, which is bizarre because I think a lot of parents and grandparents go, "But I've been talking about it for ages," and I'm like, "Well, you didn't write the book." So it's a very simple concept that I feel was brought to life by the illustrator, who's Annabelle Cutler, who is phenomenal, who is actually, she's quite a new illustrator. She hadn't done many books. So I think hopefully this has really put her on the map, because she has, you've seen the illustrations. It just brings this story to life.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. The colours are lovely. The rainbows are lovely. It really does bring your story to life. It's a really lovely book.
Yeah, thank you. And there's this concept of, and I'm sure you're aware of it, Harriet, of food familiarization, which is basically that, the more kids are exposed to fruit, veggies through picture books, through, being in the kitchen, through seeing things eaten by their parents, the more likely they are to try or even like a targeted food. And so when I wrote the book and I got Annabelle Cutler involved, I kind of said to her, I was like, I need you to make these things look phenomenal. Like, I want the strawberries to be sparkly and the artichokes to come to life. And she really did that. And I think, a lot of people say to me that they've read the book and that, their kids will actually point at particular fruit and veggies. And I'm sure it's because of the images that she's drawn that are just so captivating to kids, and often to adults as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It is a really captivating book, and it makes the rainbows look really exciting. It's not just about eating fruit and vegetables, it's about eating rainbows and how exciting are rainbows, especially to kids of that age. So I think it's a really great book. And I also think it's not just about eating, but it's also sort of got a bit about their sort of, introducing gardening. And I've often seen you on the Wholesome Doctor, that I've seen you out with your gum boots on, I think you call them in Australia, doing a bit of gardening. So do your children help you gardening and grow your own? And what kind of things do you grow?
They do. So we are often in the veggie patch. So we've got a farm. We've got a city
Wow.
property with a very small veggie patch, but then we're lucky enough to have a family farm that we escape to as often as we can. But one of my daughter is nearly 5, and my son is about to turn 1 in a couple of days. And so, especially my daughter has really grown up, kind of picking what we're going to grow in season, watering things, watching things grow. We talk about there's the little flowers and the tomato's going to come, and it's green. We're not going to pick it yet. So she kind of gets really captivated and involved in this little tomato coming to life. And the minute the tomato is red, it's off the tree, it's in her mouth. It's gone.
Oh, that's adorable.
It is. And because we're not spraying anything on it, and
Yeah,
I kind of go for it. I'm like, if she's
yeah.
going to eat this often, she'll eat a cucumber, she'll pick the apple cucumber, which my husband like treasures apple cucumbers, the little round ones, and he's like, I want it. I'm like, it's gone, buddy. She's gone, and we're not going to complain about it. So yeah, my kids are out there, and I think it's a really important part of kids learning and loving fruit and veggies and rainbows, and it's magical. As an
Yeah.
adult, like I just saw my zucchinis coming up and stuffed some zucchini flowers, and it is a magical process. And getting kids to kind of touch the dirt, if you've got any, even if you've got a
Mm.
little pot, put a bloody tomato plant in there and give it a crack, or some basil, and put it on your pasta, the Napolitana you make, or whatever you make. I
Yeah.
think just getting kids picking and feeling and smelling is so important.
No, I agree. I think it's a really important process. And during lockdown this year, I had a little vegetable patch back at my parents' house. And I must say it was really magical seeing those zucchinis come up, as you say, the
Mm,
courgettes and the flowers, and feeling like you'd grown something, and you really, it's quite an amazing experience. You put the seeds in the ground and up comes these amazing vegetables and you can eat them.
yes,
And my children really enjoyed it as well. And I think it's really great education for them. It's a really nice way of introducing, the sort of concept of fruit and vegetables that you can grow and eat, and where
mm,
food comes from, and about
yes,
pesticides and organic, and what is food. And I think it's it's
yes,
it's great. So and also in London, I remember when my children were little, you don't need a big space. We've got a small garden. We just had a little raspberry plant,
yes,
and my kids used to pick the raspberries off the plant. As you say, bugs and all, they never got
yes.
time to be washed. We didn't spray anything on them. So they were, full of extra added protein. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's just the magic of that. It's the magic of, and often we're very blessed here in Australia. Like we've obviously got the ability to often have a backyard and all these other things, but not, often not in some cities it's apartments. But
mm,
yeah, I think if you've got a balcony, if you can put
yeah,
something out there, even if it's basil. Like I think basil, when my patients I talk to little young kids about rainbows, I'm like, if you can plant anything basil and get, even if it's jar sauce, don't care, and your kid can pick that basil and put it on,
and smell
that's
it,
the
and yeah,
magic.
absolutely, put
Yes,
it on a pizza, put it in pesto.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely, basil's a really great one, really easy to
yes,
grow, and
versatile.
feel achieved something. You own it, you've grown it. You feel a little
That's
bit like,
it.
sort of a godly figure, don't you? You've put
Yes.
something to the soul, and there, you've made it. And so much
Yeah.
easier than growing children as well, I think, gardening.
It is.
So much
It's
easier.
so much easier. They don't talk back. They
No,
go to bed when you tell
yeah,
them to.
absolutely, absolutely. So
I
yeah.
love it.
So no, I thought that. So what was the hardest part about writing your book? Did it, were there any sort of stumbling blocks, or was it a really smooth process? Tell me a bit more about that.
So when I initially wrote it, this is a very interesting question I've never been asked before. But when I initially wrote it, the publisher kind of said, like it, but it's not meaty enough. And so I'd kind of initially written it to be quite simple, kind of, Stevie likes red tomatoes, Wilbur likes pumpkin. And then when I got that feedback, that was the kind of the stumbling block I had. I was like, how do I make this still engaging for kids and parents want to read it? Because that's a factor, Harriet. Like, I can't stand it when my daughter's like, I really want to read this really long novel as my bedtime book. And I'm like, why
Yes,
tonight? I'm
yes,
exhausted.
yes,
So I've had feedback from parents who go, I love the book because it's got a couple of funny puns in there, but also it's not too long, with a good message. Those are the kind of 3 criteria for parents, I think. But I kind of got the concept of, what do kids love? Kids love, fire trucks, and I tried to then correlate these colours of vegetables to things that I know kids like and can identify with. And so once I did that, then the book started to come to life. But actually getting it to that point was a bit of a hurdle.
No, I think you've done a really fantastic job, and I think my kids would love it. I'm gonna buy them a copy. I think my son and daughter are a perfect age for it, and would love it. And I've never seen anything
I'll
like it
send you
before.
one.
Oh,
I'm
thank
going
you.
to send you one.
That's very kind of you.
That's
But
it.
yeah, I think they're a perfect age for it. You know, talking about my daughter especially is 3. She recognises all lots of those things. My son recognises a lot more. But you know, we do talk about rainbows as well at home, and about eating lots of different fruit and vegetable and how important they are. But I think it's just really nice to have that extra layer. You know, like a book as well. It's not just mummy talking about it or
Yeah.
daddy. It's, you know, oh, here's a book as well that we can, you know, look and just sort of that
And that's
extra bit
it.
feeding the
I think that's what
information.
And I think that's what gets exhausting for parents is when you kind of say, you know, what I meet in the clinic is parents who kind of fussy eaters. I often see constipated children, or, you know, there's often something dietary that I'm often referring to a dietitian or nutritionist
Mhm.
here in Australia very often. But, you know, I kind of say to them, what are the conversations around the dinner table? And often they're kind of saying, you know, it's, you've got to eat your greens, you've got to do this. And they're like, it becomes this, I start to get agitated before dinner's even on the table. And so the book is designed to kind of go, it's got some information for parents at the front, for caregivers to say, this is why veggies and fruit are good. This is how many serves you ideally need and why. But then the rest of the book is kind of, let's stop talking about, you know, eat your 5 beans, Johnny, and, you know, you got to eat the tomato before you can have the ice cream. It's not the bargaining. It's kind of, let's make this magic and
Fun.
fun
Yeah, absolutely,
and
and it
fill
really
that
does
tummy
do
with
that.
rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worked with a lot of people. So yeah, I'm really pleased to hear you say that. I'm going to send you a copy.
Oh, thank you. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, no, the electronic copy looked lovely, and I think it looks a really beautiful book. And
Thank
as a
you.
parent, I've read, I don't know, many. Bedtime is very established in my household. That you know, there are many stories that have to be read before they're willing to go to bed. So I've read
Yes,
lots and lots of children's books, and it's lovely having one that has a lovely message, but also
yes.
it's beautiful. The pictures really are beautiful. I thought it was really stunning. So all credit
Thank you.
to to you for giving those messages, and also your illustrator. I think she's done a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you, Harriet.
So I just thought, like, while you're on the while you're here, can I just pick your brains a bit about sort of nutrition and what it's like in Australia as a
Mhm.
GP? Did you find that you had much training to talk to your patients? How sort of how have you gone about it?
So, in terms of formal training around nutrition, we got a little bit in general practice. So, we kind of do training here. It's what we call an apprenticeship model. Well, it's meant to be, where basically you go out and you know, you're an apprentice somewhere and you have a kind of role model who you learn from. And then basically we have our GPs. I'm now an educator where you basically take them in, you know, usually once a fortnight initially, and then it goes to once a month. And there we basically do teaching, and it's usually face-to-face teaching before the pandemic. And in there would be some nutrition teaching. It would be kind of, you know, if you're going to suggest to your, you know, impaired glucose tolerance patient or type 2 diabetic patient a low GI diet, what does that actually mean? You can't just say low GI. What are you actually telling them to do?
Yeah.
If your patient's got high cholesterol, what are the evidence-based dietary measures you can actually prescribe your patient rather than just saying you've got to cut fat out? You know, plant sterol enriched margarines and you know, lean fat, all these kind of things. So
Mhm.
we get a little bit, but in terms of formal, in-depth nutrition teaching, we don't get that. And I think I've really learned that on the job, just from further reading, from doing extra online courses, from talking to dietitians. I think when you work with dietitians a lot,
Mhm.
you tend to pick up a lot of good stuff. So I do a lot of IBS and PCOS, and from the dietitians I work with, I've picked up a lot there. But I don't know if that's similar or dissimilar to what happens in the UK, but I wouldn't say that there's formal nutrition teaching.
Yeah, I think much the same here from what I understand from other GPs. It's sort of, it's quite variable what you pick up on the
Yeah.
job a lot of the time. But do you find that your patients respond well to you talking about nutrition in a consultation, or?
Yeah, I think they do because I don't, if I don't know, I don't know.
Mhm.
And so I'm not going to faff around and be like, you know, I think this is what it is. If I'm very readily referring to allied health. Like I think that we're kidding ourselves if we think that, you know, it's just the GP in the room. Like for the majority of my patients, there's someone else as part of the team, whether it's a physio, a dietitian, a psychologist, a speech path. There's a whole team behind the patient. So
Absolutely.
Yes. So, but generally people respond quite well to it. I think because people know that it's an interest of mine and they know that I'm hopefully not going to bullcrap them.
Yeah, which I think is so important. It's so much better to be honest about what your limitations are and what you
Mm,
know and what you don't know. And also,
mm,
if there's just no evidence out there, just to say we all don't know that. That's absolutely, that's so
correct.
much better than, pretending you do know something, which I think
I think we're reluctant as a profession to do that though often.
yeah,
I think there's this real in medicine in particular, and I know you're aware of this firsthand, but also maybe in other health industries where people go, I don't want to tell the patient that I don't know, but I think that's probably my greatest strength sometimes.
yeah. Do you know
Is
though?
saying, I don't know what your abdominal pain is. It's nothing bad. I'll see you in 48 hours. We might know then, we might not, but it's not bad at the moment.
Well, I think that's certainly the way I used to practice, and from professional experience, I found that the people that knew the most were the first ones to put their hand up and say, "I don't know," and
Yeah,
the people that try to come across as though they knew everything actually probably knew the least. And I think you have to be really secure in your knowledge and confidence in your ability
mm,
to be able to say, "I don't know this," and
definitely.
that's okay, and I'm comfortable with saying that. And I think that's a lot better approach, to be honest, and a lot more
Agree,
open. I think it's a lot more
especially in
trustworthy
health.
than yeah,
Agree. Yeah.
absolutely. So tell me where your book's available and how people can buy it.
So my book is available on my site. So it's sold out from distributors, although I think maybe the book depository or one of the places, Booktopia,
Wow.
somewhere that ships to the UK has it, I think.
Okay.
But otherwise you can get it off my site, which is wholesomedoctor.com.au. I'm just about to put on their shipping to the UK and New Zealand because it's got to
Wow.
happen. So we're just trying to organise that at the moment.
That's
So
fantastic.
hopefully
Congratulations
soon.
on
Yeah,
selling out. That's really
thank
amazing. You
you.
must be
Yeah, it's
delighted.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been it's weird, Harriet. Like I get people who are like, I just saw your book at the library and they send me a picture of it or at a bookstore and I'm like, this is so weird. Like people are actually buying it and reading it. It's surreal. And you've probably felt the same thing with your book. You're kind of like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is the real deal.
I
So yeah,
did
it's
when
been good though.
the first time you actually get a physical copy of it, you're like, wow, I've got a book.
Yes.
It's quite amazing. So yes, no, but congratulations. I think you've done a fantastic job. You should be super proud, and I'm really
Thank you,
delighted.
Harriet.
So I hope everyone goes out and buys it and you love reading it with, to your children just as much as I will and have done from the electronic copy. So I'm really excited to get my physical one, and yeah, I hope you all really love it, and thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been a real
Thanks,
pleasure.
Harriet.
Thank you.